welcome back. This was a 5-minute auto-pairing game played on chessclub.com, the internet chess club, in June of 2012. And here I'm playing black against Italian international master Carlo D'Amore, and in this position my opponent played Queen E3. What do you think is the strongest move for black here? Please pause the video and try to work out not only the best move in this position, but also the potential variations that could occur and their end evaluations. Okay, so you should notice here that there are a number of factors that suggest black should have a tactical solution. Most tactics occur from undefended or inadequately defended pieces, and in this position there are quite a few. So the factors in this position include the pin on the bishop on d3. Also the knight is somewhat loose on e5. And finally, and perhaps somewhat surprisingly, the pawn on c4 is potentially weak. Even though it's been defended twice, we'll see how this pawn can be weak. So here the key move was bishop e4. And this sort of kills two birds with one stone. So the pawn on c4 has been defended twice, except that once black plays this move, the knight on e5 is attacked, so that's one defend out of the way. And the bishop on e4 undermines the bishop on d3, and that's two defenders out of the way. So here actually the pawn on c4 is forced to drop. So the immediate threat is obviously taking the knight on e5, because black doesn't really threaten taking the bishop because it's being defended 3 times and it's being attacked 3 times. Okay, so when you play a move like this, you have to look at all the captures that white could play, because often a tactic like this doesn't work because white has some tricky capture in between, like bishop takes e4 or something. But in this case, everything works out well. So if bishop takes e4, obviously black doesn't play queen takes e5 because bishop takes h7 check and he loses his queen. Instead, simply rook takes d1 and black will win material, and this is winning for black. And that was really the only thing to look at. I mean, queen takes d4, you take like a very short, like 5-second look at that, and you'd see that after rook takes d4, bishop takes e4, white doesn't have anything. Like, the only weakness black has in this position is possible back rank attacks, but it's been covered enough times by the black queen, so white can't really do anything here. Queen takes d4 is obviously not appropriate. Same thing with queen takes e4, and that's basically all the captures out of the way, and which means this is a good move. Here my opponent played f4, but the best move was actually f3. It wasn't that much better, but it's a slight improvement on the game, because here after bishop takes d3, knight takes d3. If rook takes d3, then the same thing will happen. Rook takes d3, knight takes d3, queen takes c4. So instead, knight takes d3, queen takes c4, and now because the white knight is attacked, one of these other pawns will also drop. So black wins 2 pawns from his move bishop e4 back in the original position. And here white's best move is knight e5 and then queen takes b4. This is similar to the game, except that playing f3 is slightly less weakening to white's king. So in the game my opponent played f4, and he actually spent 1 minute and 49 seconds on this move, which is quite a lot in a blitz game. I guess he was trying to figure out a solution where he doesn't lose material, but no such solution exists. So here I played bishop takes d3, and here if knight takes d3, queen takes c4, knight e5, queen takes b4 is winning for black. Instead he played rook takes d3, rook takes d3, knight takes d3, queen takes c4. And here he played knight f2. A slightly better move would have been rook c1, trying to gain counterplay on the c-file. And after queen takes a2, his best move would have been to try to liquidate by playing queen d4. Obviously black can't take the queen because of back rank threats. So he plays queen d5, queen takes d5, knight takes d5. This was white's best line, but black is still winning here because the two pawns should convert easily into a win. Instead of rook c1, white actually played 24 knight f2, which is a slightly passive move. And here I simply captured the pawn on b4. And the good thing about this move is that white can't capture on b7 because the rook on e1 would be hanging. So he played rook c1. I played h6 to prevent any back rank tricks. My king can always go to h7 now. Here my opponent played g3, and here I played b6, but a very clever move would have been queen b2. Black intends to play rook d2 and dominate the second rank, which is always a nice thing to do. If white plays rook c7, which is actually a bad move, trying to get counterplay on the 7th rank himself, black has this really tricky move knight g4, which wins on the spot. Yeah, I've been constantly surprised at the number of different ways you can exploit a black back rank weakness in chess, but here's one more. If white plays knight takes g4, obviously rook d1 check and then checkmate. And otherwise his queen is attacked, so he must move it. And any random queen move loses to the same idea. After queen f3, for example, black plays knight takes f2, and here after queen takes f2, now either rook d1 check, king g2, rook d2, winning the queen, or he can play rook d2 straight away with a mating attack. Instead I missed this tricky idea. Instead I simply played b6 because I was annoyed about white having pressure on the a7 pawn constantly. And here my opponent played rook c7. His best move would have been queen b3 and again liquidating into an endgame, which is still winning for black in the long term. Instead he played rook c7 thinking that he had a counter tactic to my fork. So I played knight d5 straight away, forking the queen and rook. My opponent played queen d3, pinning the knight to my rook. And here I saw the combination queen e1 check, king g2, knight e3 check, which breaks the pin on my rook because white is in check and attacks white's queen at the same time. So he will lose an enormous amount of material here, so my opponent resigned. Cool, thanks for watching this video.